Sorry for starting late. The dog was barking. Like, really? The dog was barking? This is like the dog ate my homework excuse. It's the joys of working from home, which I've kind of done ever since COVID, really. Oh, welcome to the show. But the Shots 8-1. No, I'm going to pick that one up, Zach, from last week.
No,
Anybody?
Let's leave that one. Let's
got 99 problems, but the Shots 8-1. It's going to catch on eventually.
I think we can leave that one in the past.
All right, I know you're not a fan. Party people in the chat, in for a treat today. We're talking with Ryan Barnes. Ryan is a former NHL player, a couple of games with the Detroit Red Wings. Was a really good junior player, was a really good minor hockey player, and he played with Danbury Trashers. So as we find out whenever we have a friend of the show, Troy Smith, on the program, nobody who played on Danbury escapes without leaving behind a story. So we got to get at least one story out of Ryan Barnes about playing with the Danbury Trashers, one of the most notorious teams of all time. Also, Julia Tocheri joins us, one half of the Impact Players, as I call them, her and Tessa Bonham of the Jocks and Jills podcast. When I last left, and maybe you can do a quick check, Canada was up 2-1 on Czechia at the Women's Worlds, and it was a nasty game. This one was rough. So we'll talk about a few different things with her. We'll get the Women's Worlds. We'll talk about the PWHL on that end of the schedule. Once the Women's Worlds is all done, it's going to be a total scramble. The other thing that I'm really curious about, you know how we always complain about hockey parents on the boys' side of things? Oh, crazy hockey mums and dads. No, specifically dads. Like, I got one kid that plays in the G and I got one kid that plays in the OMHA, so I see a lot of it and a lot of different flavors. I wonder if it's gotten that way. I would imagine it must on the girls' side as well. We all know the crazy hockey dad stories with the boys. Same thing true on the girls' side?
My sisters played, so I saw it there a little bit, but I don't know if it was that bad at that time.
From your family, was your dad crazy hockey dad with the girls? Yeah.
No.
She gets a letter. She gets the 90 seconds on each power play. That happened, Zach? No, maybe. Yeah, no.
Nope. That did not happen.
What did happen is we said bye-bye to a few teams over the weekend from the Stanley Cup playoffs and the postseason. We're going to get into that here coming up in a couple of moments. But let's kick the program off here, as we do every day, and that is Daily Outlines presented and shared with our friends at FanDuel. Daily Outlines, powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sports book. We do have a new partner to announce a little bit later on the program as well. In the meantime, coming up on today's show, very much looking forward to it. Ryan Barnes stops by. He's starting to put together a pretty impressive roster as well. If we get a chance, I want to park some time and talk about Karel Vejmelka of Utah, who's just had an outstanding season, trying to push this team into the playoffs almost single-handedly. He's one of Barnes' guys, too. Also represents, of course, the Hutson family, along with Sean Coffey at Quartex. Julia Tocheri stops by from the Jocks and Jills podcast, and there's a few things to get there with her on the women's side and also on the NHL side. If we get a chance, I do want to get her thoughts on what we saw from Gavin McKenna this weekend. Medicine Hat playing PA, Prince Albert, and Gavin McKenna with a move for the ages. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. Also on the program today, we'll talk plenty about the Hutson family and, geez, man, what a story to make your debut. I mean, you lose against Western Michigan in the final, the Frozen Four. Tough one for BU, tough one for Quinn Hutson, but he signs with the Edmonton Oilers on his way there. There's a fire on the plane, which you never want to hear. It goes back to Denver. He finally gets into Edmonton, and it looks very much like, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, that he's playing tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll get to that, the last 48/72 hours for Quinn Hutson and the Women's Worlds as well. And we'll get on that page. Montreal Canadiens clinching tonight. Are we all on the same page? Like, they can't let this one fritter away. Montreal is going to shut this one down, clamp it down. There's no way that they're going to let listen, got to hand it to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and specifically Jet Greaves, who we've been talking about now for a couple of years as, yeah, you know what, that's the goalie of the future for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's been outstanding, player of the week in the NHL. He's been outstanding for CBJ. They really stuck it to Washington on Saturday. Tough game for Ryan Leonard for a couple of different reasons, the fight and the hits from Adam Fantilli, and then Fantilli goes down and scores. But Montreal's going to lock this down tonight, right? Demidov is making his debut. We're all
scared,
getting Calder about the Hutson family here. It's going to be over tonight, right?
The Habs fans that I've spoken to about this, Jeff, are clenching cheeks tonight ahead of the game.
This is what happened. Hang on, whoa. What happened to this is found money? What happened to, we're just, you know what, we're here a year too early, whatever happens. It's amazing what happened. The same thing happened to Philadelphia last year. Remember, Flyers fans were all like, it went from like, oh, this is cool. We're, the rebuild's already over and this is fantastic. We've turned it around so quickly. And then like expectation started to grow for Philadelphia. And as they fell out of the playoff picture, all of a sudden it was that, well, it wasn't supposed to go this way. It's like, you're in a rebuild. The Montreal Canadiens are still in a rebuild. Like, isn't this kind of found money here?
So I think there's two things. There's two things to this. One would be that there was a lot of talk from Habs fans about how they were comfy and had a cushion, and the Blue Jackets can't catch them.
Same as St. Louis.
Same as St. Louis. Smack. There was a lot of smack being talked, and then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, maybe it's not so comfortable. And then the other one is now they're sitting there. And they're playing the Blackhawks tonight. Jeff, you remember what happened last year at the end of the season? I think it was the second last game, if not the last game, with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Pittsburgh-Chicago.
Who they lost to.
Pittsburgh-Chicago, yeah.
And I think Habs fans are well aware of that. So there's some
but
scared people over
everybody is looking forward to seeing Demidov, right? Like, this is it. Now we're ready to show the horse. And I'll be really curious to see how many minutes Martin St. Louis gives him in his debut, what he looks like. I think we're all curious about it. And I'll tell you, like, for whatever reason, even though this happened, what was it, last Thursday, everything just sort of flared up again about Tony Marinaro putting out that live stream of Demidov at Pearson Airport. And, on the show here last week, I've been consistent about this. Like, I think that was awesome. I think that was fantastic. Habs fans wanted it. Like, I was watching on my phone with a friend of mine who's a major Montreal Canadiens fan in Arizona, and she was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I think this is really cool, and I kind of felt the same way about it. Like, good on Tony for doing it. I don't blame fans for watching it. I get that Demidov might have been like, oh, wow, is this like Beatles Come to America 64? That's a dated reference, Marek. But it might have been a little bit overwhelming. But welcome to it. You're going to play in Montreal. Get used to it. Yeah. Like, there's no I'm only a hockey player when I'm at the rink when you're playing with Montreal. You're a hockey player 24 hours of the day. Some guys like that. Some guys don't. That's true of every Canadian team. There's no like, I remember, some players would, play in sunny locales and it'd be like, it's great. I get to go to the rink in shorts and flops. I don't have to be a hockey player when I'm out at dinner. I'm just like some miscellaneous dude. But in Canada, you're a hockey player 24/7. Everywhere you go, people say, I think that's Demidov. Hey, psst, is that Demidov? Is he having lunch? What's he ordering? Like, that's what you're getting into. I loved it. And I was happy that Tony did it. I don't laugh at any of the fans that showed up. I said, like, man, I'll tell you what, if you had as passionate a fan base as Montreal has, as exemplified by what happened at the airport last week with the arrival of Demidov, if every fan base was like that and had that level of passion / insanity, you know how hot this league would be? Mm. You know how hot the NHL would be if every fan base was that into it?
Jeff,
it'd be amazing.
I stood on my balcony after following a flight tracker, checking to see if Shohei Ohtani was on his way to Toronto after like 8 hours. Who the fuck am I to tell Habs fans that they can't go to the airport to find this guy?
Fair.
Like, seriously.
Fair. Fair.
I think most of Canada did that. Yeah. So what are we doing? Like, what are we talking about here?
What are we doing? Before we get to Ryan Barnes, one thing I do want to mention as well, are we about to see a player win the Art Ross Trophy for a third time and not win the Hart Trophy?
Yes. Okay, look.
Third. He's going to talking about Nikita Kucherov, who wrapped it up yesterday in that game against the Sabres. 3 times. Art Ross Trophy, not a Hart Trophy.
So the issue is, though, Jeff, like, if you're not going to give it to Connor, this is my opinion, obviously, but if you're not going to give it to Connor Hellebuyck in this season, you just need to make it flat out like goalies do not and cannot win this award. I think this is the 1 year where, for me, I've been so blown away by Connor Hellebuyck and the candidacy that he's put together, the stats, how many games he plays, the wins that he's providing to that team. Like, you know, if you're going to look at the underlying numbers, goals saved above expected, all that kind of stuff where it's just like he's doing stuff you shouldn't do. That is where just look at it and I go, you show up every single night, you're going to win the Vezina, you should win the Vezina, but you've also been the most important player to this team because the best ability is availability. And for a goaltender in today's age to play that many games, he deserves to be the Hart.
You're talking to the guy that has a goalie in that conversation every single season, and the majority of times I am choosing a goalie. I just find it wild that here's a guy that's going to win the Art Ross 3 times. And he's been on tons of ballots, obviously, but is going to walk away from this and say, yeah, you know what, I was top scorer in the NHL 3 times, 0 Hart trophies. How does that happen?
I know. This year, I think he kind of gets screwed a little bit because I think Hellebuyck was that good. There's probably other ones he could have looked at and said, why didn't he win it that year? Or why can that happen? I don't know.
Or is just Draisaitl going to win it? Or is Draisaitl going to win it?
I mean, I get the case for him, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be there. It's just I felt so drawn into the Connor Hellebuyck story this year of what he does for that team.
Yeah. One thing that I threw in the out in the blog, which you can read at dailyfaceoff.com today, speaking of trophies and awards, you know what would be really awesome is if, you know how the hockey writers publish their ballots, like after everything they go, okay, so here's who voted what, here's the order and all that, like full transparency. Don't get me started on the Hockey Hall of Fame, but for the general managers who vote for the Jim Gregory and the Vezina, see, that's intriguing. Like, I don't think people are interested, like, oh wow, who did Marek have for the Norris? I don't think people are that interested in that, but I think people will be interested in, like, who did Jim Nill vote for the Vezina? Who did Kevin Cheveldayoff vote for the Jim Gregory? That would have something to it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, the other way, if you really want to amp things up, if you want to make the writers more important, you put them in a room voting together and just have cameras in the corners of the room and it's mic'd up, and then they have to come out of that room with a conclusion of who to vote for. Because you know at the end when it comes out public and they're like the writers who vote on the awards and then get them yelling at each other.
We are not that interesting.
I'm not saying the people themselves. I'm saying the arguments that could take place could be interesting. Just a live cam of them up on YouTube yelling at each other about who they think should win.
Just do a live cam at the local watering hole around the corner from the rink.
Yeah,
wherever the ink-stained wretches end up. Just put the live. Hey, Tony in Montreal. Here's your next job. Live cam following boozy writers around.
Yeah, that
picket fights with hockey fans at saloons. Live stream that, Tony. I'm with you on that. Like, I want Tony to make this, like, to own this area of hockey media. The live streaming of the event. Come on.
It would be a pretty funny section to own. Just people going nuts every time he's live streaming anything. Yeah. Here's Demidov leaving the arena tonight.
Do it. But that's it. But here's the thing about that is, like, and I've always believed this about your team specifically, Zach, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is there too much information out there about the Toronto Maple Leafs? Yes, there is. And that's exactly what Leafs fans want. They want too much information about this team.
Yep.
And you could probably make the argument Montreal as well. Anyhow, Montreal wins this thing tonight, right? That's over tonight.
I don't know.
You know who I was thinking about? You know, I was thinking about last night as I was writing my blog. I was thinking about the Detroit Red Wings, who have now 9 years of playoff futility. I shouldn't even say futility because they haven't even qualified for the postseason. And I'm thinking to myself, they have $22 million of cap space, which is just catnip to every agent out there that has someone testing the market. Considering it's 9 seasons now, and it looks like Marco Casper probably wrapping up that second line center spot, that market's going to expect something big. No? They're close, right? They have a lot of room to do things here. I wonder about the Detroit Red Wings in the offseason, if there's something large up Steve Yzerman's sleeve here. We'll see where that heads. We'll get to some of the other eliminated teams coming up here in a couple of moments. In the meantime, speaking of the Detroit Red Wings, our next guest played with the Detroit Red Wings. Thank you very much. He's now a very successful agent with Cortex. He is Ryan Barnes, and he joins me on the sheet. Ryan, how are you today? And most notably, how is your client, Quinn Hutson? It's been quite the 72 hours for your client here. First of all, welcome to the program. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good afternoon, gentlemen. And with Quinn, he's in Edmonton. I was listening to the show. I was waiting to come on, and in fact, he will make his debut tonight for the Oilers. So
great,
very exciting. Obviously, a vast degree of emotions playing in a national championship game, getting on a flight to discover that an engine caught fire, an emergency landing, and some very touch and go moments there. I think as you can experience as a parent, as a player, when an engine on fire looking out the window. So emergency landing, got turned around and got into Edmonton in the late hours. So he's looking forward to making his debut tonight with the Oilers, though.
You and I have talked about the Hutson family before. Like they're poised to take over this league. That's pretty obvious. When something like this happens, like this is like I don't want to just sort of shake this off. Like this is a serious event here for this young man who's life post Saturday and the disappointment of losing to Western Michigan has really been a whirlwind. And just when you think like, okay, I'm going to sign and maybe I'm going to play against San Jose, and then all of a sudden, no, I'm not. I'm going to play against Los Angeles. And then there's this flight issue. I'll be blunt, Ryan, like there's probably a lot of players that would have checked out and said, you know what? I can't do this. Tell us about Quinn. Why can Quinn do this?
Yeah, Quinn is he's one of his qualities. He's always had a strong belief in himself, and even sometimes when others have not. He wasn't drafted, spent time in the BCHL, spent time in the USHL, but he's got a strong belief in himself and what he can do as a player, and I really respect the fact that he was able to get back on a plane after that after experiencing that. So I think that speaks a lot of who he is as a person, but as a player, the oldest brother in the family, he's certainly a mentor to Lane Cole and Lars. So he's a special person, and excited to see him in action tonight.
Ryan, I'm assuming you spoke to Quinn today. How was he? How'd that conversation go?
Yeah. I thought he was messing around with me at first a little bit, and he kind of said, "I wish I was." Like he's got a good sense.
What did he say? What did he say?
Yeah, he kind of. I'm like, "Are you messing with me right now?" And he's like, "I wish I was, but no, that actually happened." So, again, just relieved to be safe, and relieved for everybody on that plane to be safe, and excited to get his career started tonight.
Let me ask you about Cole, but first I want to ask you about Lane. So Lane is 3 assists away from breaking Larry Murphy's rookie assist record. 3 assists the next 2 games, and it's his. That record has stood since 1981. The thing that impresses me about Lane Hutson, like all of us, we all marvel at the skating and the creativity. I look at him and I kind of say to myself, if this game is evolving towards positionless hockey, You put Lane Hutson right up around the top of the list as the poster child for positionless hockey. But one of the things that I'm so impressed by is just how grounded he seems. Like he can pull off like end to end, deep guys out, jockstrap spin and all of that. And to him, it's just like, that's a day at the office. It's a day at the office. Like, is that something that all the Hutson kids have? Because I'll tell you what, man, and maybe you're the same way. If I had anywhere near close to the skill that Lane Hutson has as a player, I don't know that I'd be that humble about it.
Yeah, what you see is what you get with Lane. He is very humble. He loves the game. He loves to work at his craft. I think that work ethic and the humbleness is derived from his parents, and again, special person, and just loves being a hockey player. And you see on days off with the Canadiens, he's out there working at his craft every day. And yes, he is skilled, but he's certainly worked at it every single day to earn those skills. So he's a special person to be around. And again, he's playing in the NHL and having a very successful rookie season in the NHL, yeah. But he hasn't changed at all as a person. The way that he conducts himself, he's the same guy.
When success comes fast for any athlete in any sport, it can kind of be overwhelming. And all of a sudden, there's a lot of outside demands. There's a lot of outside noise as well. How active are you? How active Sean Coffey, everybody at Cortex, in sort of managing all of that? Because, there's an old saying, true talent is having the ability to manage your talent. How do you help Lane Hutson manage his talent?
Yeah, he obviously does get a lot of requests and a lot of people that want to access him with different marketing opportunities and just meet and greet opportunities. And he takes on all comers. Like he really has. So Sean, myself, our team at Cortex have tried to filter that, and he's really open and loves to connect with the fans and the people that believe in him and want to connect with him. So it's actually amazing to see how he's dealt and conquered and dealing with everyone that wants to say hello to him or anybody that wants to partner with him. He really has taken on all comers. So.
One of the things too, and we've seen Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, for example, opening doors for quote unquote smaller players, for players that have been told, oh, you're too small, you can't play, or especially, oh, you're too small, you can't play D. Well, no, you just can't play D the way that Lane Hutson plays defense. Does he acknowledge that he's part of this new sort of wave of defenders, that you don't have to be 6'4", 240 pounds to be successful in the NHL? Like, I'm curious, like, does he have a sense of already where he fits in the sort of grand scheme of things in the game?
Yeah, I think he's very aware of maybe some naysayers that didn't think he could defend at the NHL level, and I think if you watch, yes, you get to see the highlights of the assists and the playmaking ability and the razzle dazzle, the head fakes and the excitement that the Bell Center, when they rise to their feet when he's got the puck. But he also takes a lot of pride in his defending, and he uses his intelligence and a fierce stick to really take pride in being a 200-foot player. And I think if you look at some of the games he's touched this year, he's been in the 29 minutes, 28 minutes some night. You're not playing those type of minutes in the National Hockey League if you can't defend. So I think he's answering any of those questions if you'd be able to defend at the National Hockey League level.
I threw on my blog this morning the idea of Lane and Cole playing Hold My Beer while they pull off like highlight moves and highlight plays. And I think we're all wondering, okay, so when are we going to see that at the NHL level? But for those curious about Cole, which way is he leaning here?
Yeah, I think with his season just wrapping up, I think he's probably leaning at returning to Boston University. Give him one more year. But that's probably the way it's leaning here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he'll head back with the Terriers, and I'm sure Cole's goal will be back in a national championship game to try to get on the other side of it next time around.
Let me ask you about a couple of other clients. Congratulations on finally getting Alexander Nikishin here in North America. Hurricanes fans have been wondering / hoping he'd get here sooner than later. What was that process like? Because that's a name that we've all wondered about. You can only watch so many KHL highlights before saying like, okay, just get him over here. I know it's not an easy process, but what was it like for you getting Nikishin over here?
I mean, really, we were at the mercy of his KHL club in the playoffs. So once their season came to an end, we were able to enter serious negotiations with the Canes. It's still in process. He's still not in North America, so working on getting U.S. visa, Canadian visa, so he is available for the Canes. Hopefully coming up in next week, or as Eric had mentioned on the broadcast. I don't think it will be a month, but I think we have to be prepared for anything through the immigration process.
What are Canes fans in for? For those that have just seen clips.
He's 6'4". He can skate. He plays with bite. He's got a bomb of a shot. He's led. I think his history versus he's the best defenseman to come out of the KHL in a long time. So it's the day he makes his debut in the National Hockey League, it's going to be all eyes are going to be on the Carolina Hurricanes. So very excited about that.
A couple of more for you here, Ryan, and you're being generous with your time, and I appreciate it. Caden Aucoin. So Adrian Aucoin's son, drafted by Sarnia in the OHL draft this past weekend. We always focus on second-generation players and made a lot about Nikolai Kulemin's kid, Alex, and Gary Roberts' kid, Sam, etc. What can you tell us about Adrian Aucoin's kid?
Yeah, Caden is 6'3", right-hand shot defenseman, smooth skater, plays with a nasty edge. He's got a real good shot, can play, can defend, can create offense, and Sting GM Dylan Sika got a gem there at 26 overall, and looking forward to getting him into the OHL this next coming season. And Dylan and his staff did a great job getting him where they did in the Ontario Hockey League draft this weekend.
Is he like a 32, 33 minute a night guy like the old man was?
Hopefully when he's 18 or 19 years old in the OHL, this thing can count on for that for sure.
It's the first thing I always think about Adrian Aucoin, just grabbing the sheet after and being like, holy smokes, 34 minutes. Jeez, Adrian, let him come off for a breath. Let him have a squirt of water. Okay, so there's one rule. One of the rules we have at this show, Ryan, is if you played for the Danbury Thrashers, there's no way you can escape without at least leaving behind one story. So I'm going to throw out one name, not from Danbury, but from another team in the U-Haul. And that is Blue Benefield. Now, Troy Smith, who I believe might have been your roommate with Danbury. So Troy Smith, told the story about how this guy, I don't know what he did, but the Danbury Thrashers ended up signing Frankie Bialowas to deal with him. What do you remember from that night when Frankie the Animal Bialowas was hired for one game to deal with Blue Benefield?
Yeah, it was poor Blue. It was the entire. We did have, even back then, we did have a jumbotron at the one end of the rink, and Jeff, I know as a WWE fan, you'll appreciate that, but Frankie had the long hair, and actually sat beside him in the locker room for that game, and he had the long hair, and he had some great NHL highlight fights. So they would flash from the Undertaker's hair to Frankie's hair, and the entire Undertaker theme, the entire warm up. And I think Frankie had a bonus inducement to fight blue that night, and he was unsuccessful. And I think at one point halfway through the game, Frankie got out there against him maybe for the second or third, fourth time, and it's like, "Come on, Blue, I'll split it with you." Like we got to go. So I actually tell that story a lot when people ask me what was the experience like playing in Danbury. So.
What are you guys thinking? Like in warm up, in the Undertaker videos playing and the music, like what's going through your mind at that point? Like this isn't like, I'm not playing with the Sudbury Wolves anymore here in the OHL. Like what is this?
Yeah, it was. To be honest, I was kind of laughing, like, what is going on? What is going on? And at that point in the year, I was there kind of the second year after Christmas, and AJ Galante really wanted to win, so we had a pretty good number of guys that had American League experience and even some NHL experience, and a lot of guys were like, "What's going on here?" But the fans there loved it, and it really enjoyed my short time in Danbury, but we're treated incredibly by the Galante family while we were there.
While you were there, I'm always curious about this. Did the guys all know that like the room was wired up by the FBI and they were listening to everything you guys were saying?
No, I don't think there was. I think the guys might have known because there was a few articles in the paper and things like that. But I don't think any of us had any inkling that our locker room stalls were wired or anything like that.
Wild times.
Checking guys for wires before they come in the room, or
patting guys down when you walk in. There's AJ at the door patting it down. It's awesome. Listen, really happy for Quinn making his NHL debut tonight for the Oilers. They face off against the Los Angeles Kings. Thanks for sharing some time today. I know it's a really busy time of the year for you. Much appreciated, Ryan. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll check back soon. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
There he is, Ryan Barnes from Cortex, who represents among other clients, the Hutsons. I didn't get a chance. We kind of ran out of time to talk about Karel Vejmelka. And one of the things about Vejmelka too is, and it's not just about Vejmelka, because you have a look at some of the names that have gone through Arizona / Utah. Goaltenders, that is, and whether it's Darcy Kemper or whether it's Aiden Hill and now Karel Vejmelka, it's probably about time that we started to consider Corey Schwab one of the best goaltending coaches in the NHL. It's not a name, and I remember Corey Schwab when he played in the NHL. He's not a name that we talk about a whole lot when we talk about goalie coaches. But when you look at some of the guys that he's really helped along the way here, maybe we should. Zach, before we get to Julia, who's going to be standing by here in about 5 minutes' time, I want to get to the Crispy Inbox, because we got a really interesting question today. So time now for the Crispy Inbox, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 Portable Glass Air Fryer. Check this out.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
All right, it's an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tempware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, folks. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp. With the Ninja Crispy, you can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. What is in the inbox today, Zach Phillips?
This one was inspired by Ovi bringing up the Rolls-Royce, and it's a kind of CBA-centric question here.
Okay.
So it says, Gretzky floated the Rolls-Royce idea right in front of the commissioner and the Caps owner, but it was pretty obvious that it was a joke and it would never fly under salary cap rules. But it made me think, is there anything preventing an owner from waiting until the last game of the season and then tallying up all the space under the salary cap in order to hastily renegotiate everyone's contract, with the only change being that they would get a portion of that space as a bonus. You could take half of the space and hand it out as Christmas bonus in April for most goals, most points, most hits, with the other half just divided by 26 or whatever it is, hand it out equally. Contracts would remain exactly the same, word for word, except for one extra line indicating their share of the bonus. Thoughts? NoCo, Hockey Dad.
You know what conversation has never been had? I can almost guarantee you there is one conversation that has never been had. And that is, I don't think that there's ever been an owners meeting where someone stood up and said, we need to figure out a way to get more money in these players' pockets.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure
the players here.
Pretty sure that conversation hasn't been had. First of all, under the CBA, no. You can't do that because the key word there from that email is renegotiate. And once a contract is done, you can't reopen a contract. Now, there have been some things, like, again, we're heading into it's happening right now, a CBA negotiation between Marty Walsh, the executive director of the Players Association, and NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. I think that the relationship in this new CBA, and there'll be some things about the SPC, or the Standard Players Contract, that is different. I don't know that the NHL is going to want to allow teams and players to renegotiate deals until those deals are expired. There is one place, though, where I've always felt that there's a place where you can, I think, logically bring in outside money that isn't accounted for when you sign a deal. Because don't forget, this is one of the things that owners don't want, and we saw this during the lockout, or the COVID pandemic. There was the idea of amnesty buyouts for players. So buyouts that don't count against your salary cap, and overwhelmingly the owners said, no, we don't want any outside money in the system. We've gone that route before. We don't want to do it again. But there's one place that I see this really working, and that is with no trade and no move clauses. When you ask a player to waive a no move clause, for example, essentially what you're saying to that player is, give me something in exchange for nothing. Because the team wants to move that player to get something else, use that player as a resource. The player gets compensated 2/3 of the square root of sweet fuck all.
Language.
So, apologies. So you don't get anything. Okay? You don't get anything for that. Where I can see an opening here is in this new CBA, if you're going to ask a player to waive a no move clause, there should be a financial price tag that comes along with it, i.e. you agree to waive your no move clause, which we both negotiated in good faith, you get $1 million. I'm throwing a dart. $500,000, $2 million. I don't know, whatever the number is. That to me would make sense, because that is a transaction. That is, you get something, I get something, we're all good. As opposed to the way it is now, which is give me something in exchange for nothing, which doesn't work, obviously, for the players. That's now, the other thing that I can't understand, while we're getting on this tangent here, about with the Rolls Royce and all that kind of stuff, you know what I still don't have a solid answer on? How is it not cap circumvention? I'm going to go all the way back here, okay? Like, I'm going back to 2005 on this one. I'm sorry, folks. Okay. But I've never really received what I feel is a decent answer for this one. How was it not cap circumvention for Sidney Crosby to be able to live in Mario Lemieux's mansion when he was a rookie?
Oh, come on.
I'm serious. Was that something that was...
Why?
What's that? Was that afforded
why?
Was that afforded to every other player on the Pittsburgh Penguins at that time? You're living in the owner's mansion. Have you seen Mario Lemieux's house? Sidney Crosby lived there.
Oh, I guess because He was
Mario
part,
Lemieux
he had
lived
that ownership
there.
deal, right?
Yes.
But he was on the team. Yeah, okay.
He owned the team. They gave him
Yeah,
the
I
team.
know,
They
I know,
couldn't
I
pay
know.
him, so they gave him the team.
I
Well,
know,
they bought
I
the team
know.
like $30 million, but still. How is that not?
No, you're grasping at straws here, Jeff.
No, I'm not.
This one's grasping. Yes.
No.
These guys like Nyes lived with Tavares, Celebrini.
That's a
Smith,
player.
they
That's
lived with-
fine. That's and Gonchar lived with Malkin, and that's fine. That's player to player, not owner. The owner is making his mansion available as living quarters for Sidney Crosby. How is that not cap circumvention? Player to player, no problem. Young Malkin, I'm going to live with Gonchar. Okay, great. Makes sense. No problem. Gotcha. Tavares and Nyes. Yep, that's good. Okay, player to player, that's your deal. Charge him rent for whatever you want. Okay, that's good. I'm talking
Really,
about
can
owner
of
and
worms you
player.
just opened up here in the chat. They're asking for titles to be stripped. So this is what you've done.
Now they're
This
taking
is
cups
what you've
away.
done here now.
Cap circumvention. Take the cups away right away.
Bring the banners down. Yeah. Way to go, Jeff. This is what you've
No
done.
problem. No problem. Over to you, Pittsburgh, on that one.
You can't believe that.
I don't know. I hope that answered the question. Essentially, the heart of it is you can't renegotiate a contract. You can't renegotiate a contract. Long-winded way of saying can't renegotiate a contract.
I get that. I'm okay with that. I love the idea, though, of players still being able to get bonuses past the salary cap, and I think that that's just because I probably am a fan of a team who's capable of paying beyond that, and there's other teams that would. But Matthews, you finished first in the league in goals. Here's $250,000. Nylander, you broke a career high. Here's your $100,000 bonus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can hand those cash out. I got no problem with that.
Spencer Newton in the chat. Yes, Jeff, you're correct, and you've been correct for years. Frame that from the chat, Zach, will you? Yeah. J-Rock, can you see James Dolan? Yeah, sure, you can sleep in my basement. James Dolan saying to Brennan Othman, hey, welcome to the team, kid. You can crash in my basement. Let's get to our next guest. Do not let important people wait. Julia Tocheri is a very important person. One half of the Impact Players, as we call them, the Jocks and Jill's podcast. She joins me now. Julia, thanks so much for stopping by. Now, before I hopped on the air, in a very particularly violent game between Canada and Czechia, it was 2-1 Canada, 2 goals by the GOAT. What did it end up?
It wound up being 7, Jeff. Thank you for having me on.
7? Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah, it wound up being 7-1. It got really ugly. I think Canada got 4 goals in a matter of 2 minutes and 40-some-odd seconds, and the game was gone after that. But what a crowd in Czechia we're seeing for this Women's World Championships. Like, even when it was 7-1, at the very end of that game, we were seeing the fans in Czechia jumping up and down, making that arena rattle. So they were in for it, even though they ended up getting in the end.
Let me ask you about fans on the women's side. Like on the men's side, I've always maintained that the Latvian fans are the best in the world. Latvian fans don't care if they're winning or losing. They're there. They're having a great time. They're singing. They're chanting. They love everything about hockey.
Like, my favorite thing at World Juniors used to be sitting with the Latvian fans.
Best. Like I was telling the story last week. Like I'm the guy that always stays to the very end, and I'm glad that I did. After Latvia beat Canada, I'm glad I stayed to watch, all the Latvians tap the glass and go to the Latvian section, all that. But I was glad I stayed because there was a section of Canadians that stayed to give a standing ovation to the Latvian kids, Eric Smetegos and all of them. Yeah. So you were there. So do you remember the Canadian section that stayed and stood and applauded the kids? I'm like, this is such a beautiful hockey moment. This is really wonderful. Okay, so on the women's side of things, outside of, because Canadian hockey fans are insane, ditto for U.S. hockey fans, but internationally on the women's side, is there an equivalent of the Latvian hockey fan? Maybe it's Latvia.
What? I think it's Czechia. I think it's Czechia for me. I haven't seen very much of Latvia in the top division on the women's side, but the Czech team, like I was there when they won their first medal at the Women's Worlds in Denmark a couple of years ago when they got their first bronze with Carla McLeod as the head coach, and she's still obviously steering the ship there. It's amazing what the fans there think. And honestly, like this tournament has already been the best attended Women's World Championship outside of North America, and we haven't even reached the quarters yet. So it's really incredible what's happening for women's hockey in that country. We're seeing it with 9 PWHL players already on that Czech team. So it's incredible to watch. And I like how European hockey fans jump I don't think we do enough jumping in North America.
That's true.
Right? They jump. It makes the whole arena rattle. Find that lots of the barns in Europe have those tin roofs still too, which we don't see as much. Buildings in Canada just makes everything louder. So I was very sad for Czechia. I was having a bit of an un-Canadian moment over here in my condo, kind of cheering for Czechia to tie it up on home ice. You know, when you work in hockey for so long,
Sure.
like you're just cheering for the storylines. And I really like that Czech team. I really like what they're doing on home ice too. I was honestly a little bit disappointed to see Canada stomp them in the end. But if you were paying attention to that game, did you see how mad Poulin was? Like, she's just having one of those mad moments. And she terrifies me when she's like that. I was having a moment of, thank God I'm not doing the Between the Benches interviews right now, because last year in Utica, I remember being like, oh, Pooh's in a mood, and Sam Cicerella's asked me to talk to Pooh, and now I have to do that, waddle over to her, you know, the drama.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I kind of like her when, I mean, listen, I don't have to stick a microphone in her face after a period, but like, I like her like that. But the whole game, like that first, I watched like the period and a half, and I lost count of how many times there were hits from behind and in the boards.
What even were they calling? I have no idea
nothing.
What they were calling. Well, they weren't calling anything. And then that Sarah Nurse, did you see that Sarah Nurse call that they
I saw the Sarah Nurse penalty, yeah.
Bizarre one to call when you've been calling nothing all game. But I don't know. I'm not the officiant. I hate ripping on officiating because I know there's lots of people who don't want to do it. Like, I know that refs in minor hockey get ripped on. I was a ref in minor hockey. I have worn those stripes. I have fought those wars. It's not something I would recommend.
So what was, I'm curious, let me tickle that for a second here. What was that like for you, and what was the worst? Because we always focus on like the worst part of officiating. What was the worst for you? Oh,
okay. Well, I was not only a girl who played all boys hockey. For some reason, when I decided to ref, my only jobs growing up were in hockey. Like, I either worked on a farm, or I was a timekeeper, or a referee, or I like announced the goals at the arena. Like, I only ever worked lame jobs in hockey. The worst one for me was reffing a 9 AA game at a tournament. And it was my dad's friend that was coaching. So I figured I'd be in the clear. Like, my dad's childhood friend in Thunder Bay.
No way.
And this guy ripped me. And I tossed him. Bye. And it was a long after. Yeah. And I still chirp him about this to this day, my dad's friend, Adrian. If he ever hears this, Adrian, you're still
awesome.
psycho. It was a penalty in a 9 AA game. Like, leave me alone.
It's like, buddy, do you get this mad when you vote? Like, calm down. It's like a double A game. It's like it's a minor for a hook.
Exactly. We love hockey parent talks, though. Hockey parents are just on another level. So his kid was in the game. It didn't matter that his friend's kid was in the game. She was the enemy.
Yeah.
She was the
Okay, you know what? I mentioned this earlier before you came on. Like, one of the things I want to ask you about, I want to get to the World Championships here, and I want to get to the PWHL, and like there's a whole bunch of stuff. I want to get your thoughts on Gavin McKenna this weekend too. But I'm really curious about one thing. I've got 2 boys that play. One plays in the G, one plays in the OMHA. I get the full cross section of it.
Nice.
I've got a million stories.
Wait, so you put one in the GTHL and one in the OMHA? Do you prefer one child?
But I don't know which one is wiser. I don't know which one is smart. I don't know which one is healthier.
I'm really intrigued by that.
Although, you know what? I'll tell you what. I can't tell you how many texts I got from people this weekend at the OHL draft who said, no GTHL players in the top 3. Isn't that interesting? I thought GTHL. Is there going to be like an emergency development meeting on Monday at the Scotiabank?
Canada. I was thinking about hockey referendums watching that Canada-Czechia game because I'm like, oh no, we're going to have a national referendum again. Just like
100%. But yeah. So I've seen all the, on the boys' side, crazy parent, crazy dad, all of it. Is it the same on the girls' side? It would be arrogant of me. It would be arrogant of me to assume that it's not or think that it's not. So I'll just ask you, like, is it same?
Yeah, it's just as insane, and I think it's gotten even crazier now with the PWHL in the mix and the fact that, well, listen, like NCAA scholarships have always been a huge prize when it comes to young parents and seeing their daughters eventually go on to Ivy League schools and have that opportunity through playing hockey. That was always a dream, and Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, obviously the national teams and the Olympics, always the dream as well. But now there's a real viable career path where women right now in 2025 are making real livable salaries, and that's where the league is at right now. So you can only imagine, as you like to say the parent of the 09 or 08 or 2010 or whatever it is just licking their chops, seeing the dollars go into women's hockey, like not just the salaries but the sponsorships as well. I think honestly he comes up on this show more than I do. Liam Ham, my boyfriend, could speak to it better than I could because he works in hockey development. And he's seen a huge influx of young girls coming in, and he's kind of trying to build out a program for young girl hockey development. Young, like there's a whole stream of players coming up. It's going to be really exciting to see the way that development changes.
It's going to be great too. And I'll tell you, like, I can't help but look at this tournament and watch this season of the PWHL. And it's going to be a real scramble here after the Women's Worlds to what this thing's going to look like and who's going to the playoffs and who's not. But let me ask you this. Does it feel to you that the game is at a place where we're going to see a changing of the guard probably after this Olympic cycle? Does it feel that way to you? Like we're looking at, the last, some of the final games leading up to the Olympics next year of a lot of players that we're really comfortable and used to watching on our televisions here.
Are you talking with Team Canada specifically?
Both Canada and the United States.
Oh, interesting. So,
but Canada for sure. Yeah, Canada for sure. Canada for sure.
I'm thinking of this question a couple different ways, Jeff, because I was thinking you were talking like a changing of the guard in women's hockey in general, and seeing countries like Czechia challenge for a medal, and seeing Finland.
No, I'm thinking of players.
Yeah, but we are seeing definitely a closing of the gap in women's hockey right now. But changing the guard, on the women's side, like Team Canada, it was like, are you guys ever going to have a college player on this team other than Danielle Serdachny, or is that just not something that we're ever going to do? And everybody likes to scoff at Team Canada because of it. And then you take a step back and you're like, okay, armchair GM, who are we taking off this team right now? Like the thing that's so impressive to me about Team Canada is that dressing room. The culture in the dressing room is almost systemic. They know how to bring in a young player. They know how to bring that player in to be part of the culture and part of the team and part of the group experience. Like they really know how to be a group. And I think Hockey Canada is very conscious of that and the harmony that exists in that locker room. Like when Team Canada went to the 2022 Olympics, did anyone think that they were going to lose? Like, did anyone think that there was even a small chance that the USA could win? I know that's easy to say in hindsight, but it really didn't feel like the US had a shot in 2022. Mm-hmm. A little bit more interesting on the U.S. side of things because they have this whole contingent of incredible college players. The whole hockey world got to see Kirsten Sims on full display in the NCAA championship when she got that penalty shot goal, and then she got the overtime winner. I don't know if we got to fully appreciate Caroline Harvey, who was also excellent in the Frozen Four. Layla Edwards, like I'm naming all Wisconsin players right now. There's a lot of players on other teams.
Thing with Wisco here. Hold on a second, Julia.
Yeah, they're incredible, but. The thing that's interesting, and I still kind of include Taylor Heisey and Grace Sumwinkle in that young contingent of USA players, even though they're in the PWHL and they're PWHL champions too. Mm-hmm. It's just an interesting mix they've got in the USA right now with the veteran group of players like Kelly Panic, Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Hillary Knight. Amazing for them, I think, to have Lee Stecklin back in the lineup, and she's been awesome so far this tournament. She took a step away from the national team, and it was a pretty significant thing. I think we're seeing how much her leadership mattered and how much the USA needed that little bit of leadership in the room. Canada's all vets, and the USA has a little bit of balance going. I think they need to I think the younger players on that team are still finding the perfect recipe for how to win at the senior level. So we saw them do it in Brampton in what was one of the wildest gold medal games I've ever seen, the Hillary Knight hat trick. And that was a veteran on the team throwing the team in her back in a moment like that, the way we know players like Hillary Knight and Hillary Knight specifically to do. So we are seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard. I think we see that with Canada's top D pairing too. Like it's not Jocelyn and Renata anymore. I think that was kind of like writing on the walls when Jocelyn Larocque was traded from Toronto to Ottawa. So much Hockey Canada influence on Toronto. It's hard not to draw those conclusions. So yeah, it's definitely changing of the guard time. And man, there's a lot of really good players coming up, as you know.
And a lot of them are on display. Now, I do want to ask you about in your latest podcast, you guys spent a little bit of time parking on this one, which is a great conversation. You and Pounder and Kenzie talking about this one. Caroline Harvey getting rocked by Abby Murphy. Now, Abby Murphy crushes everybody. Like Abby Murphy is just like wrecking ball.
Yeah.
But in this Minnesota Wisco game, like the hit that she caught her with, first of all, it's late, and I don't get the sense that Abby Murphy cared one bit. Here's the issue. The teammates. Now.
Yeah, and
dressing next to each other and team meals and everything. Like, have you heard anything?
About this is I know all the U.S. college players went over earlier than the PWHL players, and they had a couple days in České Budějovice. I've been having a lot of fun.
Well done. Look at you. You were rehearsing that.
Thank you very much. Nobody wanted to send me to the tournament, and I figured out how to say it. Yeah, that's a weird one. Okay, some context missing from that, though. Everybody saw Abby Murphy destroy KK. I don't know why her nickname is KK. Side note, her name is Caroline that starts with a C. Mm-hmm. Caroline Harvey absolutely crushed Abby Murphy from behind in the corner into the boards as well. So it went both ways. There was heat on either sides of this. You heard me on my podcast, Jocks and Jill, saying that I was doing some serious Instagram creeping to see if there was any.
Yes,
no one following, anything to that effect. I know we like to all see if there's like a ceremonial unfollowing or anything like that. Nothing like that. I say we all like to see it because I'm the one that looks for it. Well, I haven't heard a whole ton. Nobody wants to say anything really. I don't know. I haven't heard anything on this, but I haven't seen them together or anything like that. USA seems to be rolling right now. Like they were able to beat Canada yesterday. Yep. But like I said, it was the vets that stepped up in that game with Keller and Stecklin scoring. So interesting to see what's going on with the rookies for the USA right now.
Game number 100 today, by the way, for Erin Ambrose. So a big one.
I love her.
Yeah, big. She's a big. Listen, we're big fans around these parts of Ambrose. I remember. I'll tell you. What's that?
Our favorite YSC alum.
Oh God, are we gonna start about YSC? Here we go. Chris Cherney, come on down. Sean Walker, here we go. Oh God, nonstop. Nonstop. Zach Phillips, here we go. Robert Thomas.
Shout him out, of course.
But I remember during the pandemic. Elliot and I were trying to figure out, okay, how we can do this podcast. And so we okay, it's going to be interview heavy, because we don't have much hockey to talk about, obviously. And I remember I was talking to Cassie, and I'm like, who should I talk to on this show? And right away, she's like, essentially what I was asking, like, who's got the biggest mouth? Who's the best talker? And she's like, Erin Ambrose. Like not even close, like Erin Ambrose. And one day whenever she decides that that her body can't take it anymore, because I think she's gonna have to drag her off the ice, I can see a career in broadcasting for Ambrose when she was done. But I'll never forget that conversation with Cassie. Oh yeah, Ambrose. Yeah, she's the one. Who do you think the best talker is in the game right now?
Ooh, what, Renata Fast is really, really good. Like Renata Fast, and I know she does some TSN stuff, so maybe I have that in my head about her right now, but Renata Fast is so excellent. And Daryl Watts we had on our show recently, and maybe she's just so top of mind, and I think of her as a player that's so underappreciated on the ice. I think she's very underrated off the ice too. She's so thoughtful with every word that comes out of her mouth, and she's hilarious too. This kind of dry, sneaky sense of humor that really gets me. Erin's always going to be number one for me too. I love seeing Erin at the rink. I love talking hockey with her. Honestly, yeah, she's one of the greatest. I was going to say, honestly, no one gets more excited to see Erin than Liam, because I like the dynamic they had growing up. Liam used to watch Erin play for.
Oh, no way.
Was the captain. So yeah,
awesome.
Longtime fan of Erin Ambrose.
Here we go, YSC again. Okay, so we know detour on York Simcoe Express. How's this all going to shake out in the PWHL?
Oh God, I don't know, Jeff, and I'm stressed about it. I think part of the reason why Poulin looked so pissed off in that game versus Czechia today, obviously they had just dropped that game to the US, but if you've been watching Montreal Victoire games recently, Marie-Philippe Poulin looks mad, and they've been on this little mini slide, right? Like the Victoire, and Tessa and I were at the last game right before the break when Corey kind of went in at the media in Montreal. Did you see that? It's like a rite of passage, right, for Montreal head coaches. I was lucky to be in the room for her for having to give it to the media in Montreal. But I think that there was a lot going on there, and it seemed like I don't know. Pooh is She's so poo. You can know exactly how she's feeling by watching her on the ice. Like you can watch her shoulders, you can watch her head, you can watch her face, you can watch her eyes when she kind of looks out of her helmet and looks a little bit like demonic almost when she looks over her shin guard. So, I don't think Montreal is falling out of first place. All this to say about how they're having a little bit of a slide right now. Toronto. So I don't think
could you just park Montreal for one second? Yeah. I just think that's a reflection of last season and how it ended for them.
I think that she just hates to lose whenever.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. There's got to be some frustration left over from like all those million minutes of overtime and millions of shots that Aaron Frankel stopped. Like they couldn't get anything past her. It was so frustrating. Watching that final last year for Montreal must have just been so painful. But yeah, I don't know. New York Sirens still have a small chance, and the New York Sirens just love to play for gold points. It's interesting though because no one is eliminated yet. Because everybody still technically has a chance.
I bid on New York early. I thought, okay, there we go. Affiliate's in. All of a sudden, it's like hotline. I bid hard.
We all did. Like when we were planning our visits to all the PWHL markets at the beginning of the season, we're like, oh, we won't even bother with New York. We'll go in the playoffs. Like that's how we planned. We're like, oh, We'll be there in the playoffs. So you weren't the only person that bid on New York. I don't think it was a flash in the pan that we saw from New York. I think New York is a real thing. New York has too many good pieces. Like they have world-class defenders. They have 2 world-class goalies. They have some of the best forwards in the world. What we saw from New York was not a flash in the pan. What we saw from them was a historically bad losing streak, a 9-game losing streak, the worst in PWHL history, which is bad. Yeah. Spoiler alert. But it's even worse when you don't pick up any points. Like they weren't picking up any overtime points. Yeah. They weren't picking up any points in that losing streak, and it's just kind of made it impossible for them. I'm mostly interested in Ottawa. Like Ottawa is the most interesting team to me, just because I think there are the most implications if Ottawa were to miss the postseason this year. Mm-hmm. And Ottawa lost Darryl Watts, their leading scorer. They've been without Razova for a lot of the year, who was kind of supposed to step into the place of Darryl Watts and be that superstar for them. I'm very interested to see what Ottawa does here, because they've been really good since that takeover tour game where they decided they wanted to turn it on, but they're so unpredictable. And they had 4 chances last year to clinch the postseason, and they just kept kicking it into the dirt. So I'm interested to see what they do, because I think it could have the most implications based on where they end up.
Real quick before we wrap, I do want to get your thoughts, because you're a big junior hockey fan as well, and you watch a lot of it. And I don't know if there's a question attached to this one. There probably isn't. I'm just going to say what we all saw and get your thoughts. Gavin McKenna versus Prince Albert.
I know. And Gavin McKenna. So I got to cover Gavin McKenna this past summer in Edmonton at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup.
Yep.
And his entire family was there. He's such a nice kid. And the thing I want to say about Gavin McKenna, that's the most amazing to me, is I've had the opportunity to cover the hockey robots of our generation. Connor McDavid, hockey robot number 1, and his little friend, Connor Bedard, hockey robot number 2. I put those 2 kind of in their own category, because when I talk to them, it's not hard to talk to them about anything other than hockey. But when I speak to Connor Bedard, I'm like, he's not even speaking to me. He's thinking about a power play in the back of his head. And it's the same thing with Connor McDavid. Hockey robots. Gavin McKenna is a really incredible hockey player and maybe a generational talent. I think Craig Button has said generational talent, and I usually default to Greg when I decide who's a generational talent, who's not. But he is a generational talent who's a great dude, dude from way up north with an amazing family. His mom is one of the, is his mom's name? Crystal? It's escaping me right now, but one of the sweetest women I've ever had the opportunity to talk to covering hockey. She has her lovely beaded Team Canada earrings. I'm such a big fan of hers. I also have a Nick Alberga story I want to tell on this podcast before.
Whoa, I ain't going to stop you. I'm going to back up off the microphone. This is all you. You got an Alberga story.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so I know I was supposed to come on last week, and you guys had Jay Rosehall on, and he just chirped Nick as he was leaving the show. And it made me think of this Nick Alberga story that I had that I wanted to leave you with, because Nick Alberga doesn't know this Nick Alberga story, and it is a freaking good one. I went to the Kachuk Bowl in Florida a couple months ago, February it would have been. And we had some great seats. My former TSN colleague Dave Poulin set us up, so we're sitting cozy in Florida, and Tessa set that up for us. So we were set up really nice in Florida, And, we're enjoying a hockey game in Florida. It was actually my first time going to a hockey game in Florida. I'm enjoying the scenery. I'm enjoying the sights. I see a really tall dude in a tight t-shirt take a selfie. Have a girl line up in the aisle and take the selfie for him. And I make some jokes with him. And I'm like, hey, we're in Florida. Eh? You don't see that in Toronto. And Liam looks at me and he goes, I'm pretty sure you know that guy. it was very much Nick Alberga having his selfie taken at the Florida Panthers game. And it was just such a comment that I made in passing. And then I couldn't even say hi to him because I was laughing too hard. But Nick is such a great guy, and I'm kind of piling on him with that story. But I had to share.
You know what we say about Nick Alberga around here?
Is it a swear?
He's a nice bunch of guys.
He's a nice bunch of guys. That's what
He's
it was.
Nice
yeah,
bunch
that's
of guys.
exactly what I was listening to when I thought of that story.
Love him. Love you too. Thank you for stopping by. Let's make this more regular, okay? Please.
Totally.
Continued success with the pod. Jocks and Jills, gotta listen. The last one is the preview of the Women's World. The next one's going to be the wrap, or are you doing one in between?
We got one coming Wednesday. We're going to tee up the quarterfinals.
Nice. Awesome. Looking forward to that one. You be good. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Julia Tocheri from the Jocks and Jills podcast, along with Tessa Bunham. And to keep Zach Phillips happy, a little bit of YSC talk in there sprinkled. Just a little sprinkled. I like how people in the chat are saying about Nick Alberga, 2 people.
Yeah. I knew I had a feeling where that one was going. I've seen that picture that she was talking about, so I know exactly what picture. I think it was his profile picture.
Did he post it
for a while? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's yeah.
Hey, buddy, don't see that in Toronto. I think that's Nick Alberga. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that guy's from Toronto.
What do we still have to get to today? We have anything else we got to get to today? Oh, I know we have to get to today. We have a brand new partner here on the program throughout the end of this regular season and the postseason, and that is our friends at JP Wisers. This segment is a presentation of JP Wisers. When the Stanley Cup playoffs begin, Canada comes alive with passion, just like JP Wisers. The spirit of Canada bringing fans together for every moment. Canada is eyeing its strongest NHL postseason presence in decades, with 5 Canadian teams currently in a playoff position. Come on, Calgary, make that 6. The last time that happened was 1993, which was also the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup, 1993. Welcome aboard, JP Wisers. Glad to have you as part of the property here. Now then, Montreal closes out tonight, right? I'm not sure if I mentioned that here on the program so far, but I think Montreal really does close this one out tonight. All right, fine. Be that guy. Speaking of games, here are the games on the board later on this evening. And really, there's a couple that are really noteworthy. The sheet is powered by FanDuel. As we always like to remind you, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. Now, technically, Zach, there's 6 games on the board tonight. There's 2 with major implications, as we all know. Mm-hmm. Chicago Blackhawks, Montreal Canadiens, Bell Center. There is not a place in my hockey universe that I want to be at more than the Bell Center tonight. I usually always say that I want to be at the Bell Center because the atmosphere is fantastic for hockey. But on a clinch night against the Blackhawks, if they beat the Blackhawks in any fashion, a single point won't do it, folks. They're in. That's it. The only thing that sucks about that is it's at the expense of the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's the part where I'm like, ugh, I really, like all of us, wanted Columbus in. The fact that they've taken it this far and had that game Saturday against the Washington Capitals, I think is awesome. Also, the debut tonight of Ivan Davidov of the Montreal Canadiens. We shall see. Also, I mentioned this with Ryan Barnes earlier in the program. If Ryan the Hutson gets 3 assists in his final 2 games, he sets a new single-season record for assists by a rookie defenseman with 61. Larry Murphy, one of the most underrated. Zach, even though your fans booed him out of Toronto, only to see him go to Detroit and win Stanley Cups. Do you see how that works? Larry Murphy, 60 in the 1980-81 season with the Los Angeles Kings. That is the record. As much as it is the debut of Ivan Demidov with the Montreal Canadiens, it's also the debut of Ryan Green with the Hawks. I don't think anyone showed up at the airport. I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone live streamed it. I'm pretty sure
there wasn't a live stream for that one following him, and
he
police escort, and
probably texted his family and his friends, and that was about it. No escort, no crowd, no signs, no live stream. But nonetheless, Los Angeles Kings and Edmonton Oilers. We mentioned the debut of Quinn Hudson. We thought it would be Wednesday against San Jose. Not so fast. It is tonight against the Los Angeles Kings. If the Kings win in any fashion, they get home ice against the Oilers. And here's why that is significant. The Kings are 31-5-4 at Crypto.com Arena. 31-5-4. When they get the matchups they want, it's really tough to beat the Los Angeles Kings. Other thing that's noteworthy here, Connor McDavid needs 1 point to become the fourth player in NHL history with 8 100-point seasons. Gretzky did it 15 times. Mario did it 10 times. And then the man they called Little Beaver, Marcel Dion, with 8. McDavid jumps in there.
That was his nickname.
Yeah, Little Beaver. Oh yeah, he was one of the only. By the way, he was one of the only guys, and I never feel this way because I was like, oh, they're just hockey players. Who cares? He was one of the only guys that I got when I was doing the old Leafs lunch show. When he wrote his book, and he came in live in studio, and it was the first time that I'd ever met him. I was like nervous to do the interview. I remember that because it goes back to my dad telling me, like, you never see this guy, but I'm telling you, because he went from Detroit to Los Angeles and he's the best player in the NHL and no one ever get a chance to see him and blah, blah. My dad would go on and on and on about Marcel Dion. And I finally got to meet him. I'm like, oh my God, this is like the coolest thing. Like my dad used to always tell me nonstop about Marcel Dion. And here I am meeting Marcel Dion. Yeah, Little Beaver is the nickname. Great name. Great nickname. Mike Bossy was 7 as well. That's where Connor McDavid is. So those are the two biggies. Tonight. There are 4 other games on the board around the National Hockey League this evening. You're free to enjoy them, but the ones of significance are that. Do you have a thought on either of those 2 games? I kind of pounded on the on the Montreal game because of the clinching scenario and the debut of Ivan Demidov. But anything on either one? I mean, Oilers are walking wounded. The Ekholm injury is just a crusher for them. Jeez, man. Like if there's one player, I know you never want to lose like a McDavid or a Draisaitl. That's obvious, but man, that is really significant. Losing someone like Matthias Ekholm. No one else on that blue line does what Matthias Ekholm does. Nobody does.
So I saw a list come out. I think it was from Rashog about all the players out. That was the one thing that stood out to me ahead of tonight. The other one would be watching how aggressively McDavid pursues the 100 points and then has tries to get it out of the way, I guess is what I'm saying here, because I feel like there could be some quick load management coming. I feel like he cares about that. I know he obviously puts the team first. That's very obvious in every single thing he does. And winning and trying to win the Stanley Cup, those things matter the most. It matters. I think any of these guys who are some of the best, it fuels them to be in the conversations of the best players in the world. Totally. Even though they give you the hockey answer, oh no, I don't care about that, blah blah blah. Like you and I joked about the OV if he scored and then they went out in the post game after they lost and he's like, oh, I don't care, we lost the game, blah blah blah. Like they care about getting these records and being amongst those conversations. Yeah. But if he can get it out of the way at some point in the next little while, like the first period or something, it gives Chris Knoblaw the opportunity to be like, okay, Connor, well, why don't you shut it down? We'll play you for like 3 minutes the rest of the game. But I feel like it's just going to be fun to watch how quickly he tries to go after that, how they handle these injuries and stuff. Because the other thing is rest versus rust. I think that's a very interesting conversation. It's not always the same teams who handle it one way. It's like players within the team might handle it differently. Some guy can't go out for an extended period of time and come back in. Connor McDavid might be able to miss a lot of time and come back and look really, really good. It's very different for everybody. They got a lot of guys sitting out right now.
Well, one thing I want to mention here as we go off the air, and maybe we'll pick up on it tomorrow with Wish. In the blog, I just threw down a couple of notes on some of the teams that have exited the playoff picture. And New York Rangers. So I was texting with someone last week who brought this up, and this person said, it's not allowed to happen because you're not allowed to do this under the CBA, although it has happened before in a famous one between Quebec and the New York Rangers, facilitated by Phil Esposito, and that is trading coaches. And for the New York Rangers, how do you feel about this trade? The New York Rangers trade Alexis Lafreniere to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for head coach Mike Sullivan, which technically you're not allowed to do, and a first-round pick. This is one of those things that gives both teams what they want/need. Gives the Rangers a coach that's good with working with veteran players, and also gives them some cap flexibility by moving out Alexis Lafreniere and his deal. It's been a challenging time for Lafreniere with the New York Rangers, and the first-round pick makes it more palatable. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, you're getting, again, how many times have we talked about, these are the age group that Kyle Dubas is going after here. He doesn't just want to stockpile a bunch of picks, but players, and this is a player that's underperformed based on his compensation, but could do well with a change of scenery. And let's face it, he wouldn't be the first French-Canadian hockey player to excel in Pittsburgh, which has always had a healthy stable of French-Canadian hockey players. How do you feel about that? Now, again, you can't do it because you're not allowed to trade coaches.
Yeah.
Right? Michel Bergeron was traded from Quebec to the New York Rangers. Was 2 first-round picks. Went the other way. I think they fired Bergeron pretty quickly, too. Phyllis said just threw away 2 first-round picks. You can't trade coaches. But if you could, would that be one that would make both sides happy and give them what
my
they
mind
needed?
Just starts digging into some of this stuff, thinking about the young kids that have left New York and being like, we need to get out of here. We've struggled. We had a tough time, etc.
Yeah.
And then they go on and have success elsewhere. And I feel like Lafreniere is just another guy who would fall into that category. And Laz's road to 100 would be correct. It would just be a year early and in the wrong city. And that would probably absolutely kill him. But yeah, I mean, being able to trade coaches would be pretty exciting. I looked into it, Jeff. I'm pretty sure you can trade coaches in the NFL. I think that you're allowed.
Oh, is that
to do
right?
that. Yeah, because there was a trade proposal that had come up, and it was allowed to happen a couple of years ago that involved the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, actually, Mike Tomlin. And it never went anywhere. Nothing ever happened with it, but it was. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was allowed. You could have done it.
You could do it.
Followed through. Yeah. Yeah. Last thing I want to ask you quickly, because I did remind myself of it as I brought up his name. Morning Cup of Hockey, boys, the show that goes off prior to this one in the morning at 9 a.m. before the Sheedy Cup of Hockey. I think that was what you called it, Jeff?
Afternoon Cup of Hockey.
Yeah. Oh, okay. They wanted to know if you go to a hearing.
Yes.
This is coming off some of the incidents that happened this weekend. If you go to a hearing, is it 100% you get suspended? You have to get suspended if you go to a hearing.
No. That is a 100% not true. There was Bufflin on Gallagher. There was Lindgren on Donskoy. There was Pouliot on Yandel. So it has. It doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't happen very frequently. If you're getting a hearing, generally it's not looking good for you, but it's not an automatic. It has happened. It has happened more than a couple of times where a player's had a hearing, and at the end of it, it's like, nope, okay, no suspension. So it isn't an automatic that you're going to be suspended. Good question, though. Good question, but the answer, Laz and Colby, no. One thing I wanted to mention, as we bid everybody a good day. One is something that I missed, and that was the passing of Alex Faulkner. That name is important because Alex Faulkner was the first player from Newfoundland, first player from Newfoundland to play in the NHL. He played with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Detroit Red Wings. Very, very proud Newfoundlander, and they're very proud to call him one of theirs. He passed away on the 7th, I believe. So condolences to the legendary Faulkner family in Newfoundland. And the other one, and this one is a little bit more closer to home. Man, last week was just awful too with all the passings. But Jerry McNamara passed away. Jerry was at the age of 90. Jerry McNamara was a general manager. Jerry McNamara was a scout. Jerry McNamara was a goaltender. Jerry McNamara was a manager for the Toronto Maple Leafs at a very tumultuous time under owner Harold Ballard. And the one thing that we will always remember Jerry McNamara for, outside of being an outstanding storyteller, and I interviewed him a couple of different times on the Old Leafs Lunch Show with Bill Waters, great storyteller and real dynamic personality. He was the man that, and I can safely say this because there weren't any other scouts there, who single-handedly was responsible for bringing Börje Salming to the NHL. Now, he was scouting. He had gone to Sweden to look at a goaltender, a guy by the name of Kurt Larson. Kurt Larson had one of the coolest looking masks playing for Team Sweden. You can do a Google image search on Kurt Larson. You can see what I'm talking about. But he went there to look at this goaltender and was told to go see Börje Salming and Inga Hammerstrom, and came back with both. At the same time, also found Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nilsson. But he was like, whenever you think, the legend of Börje Salming, and we just lost him not too recently as well, think of Jerry McNamara, because if it wasn't for Jerry McNamara, there wouldn't be a Börje Salming in the NHL, and we wouldn't have seen the beginning of the influx of Swedish hockey players in both the NHL and the WHA that we did through the 70s and into the 80s as well. Jerry passed away at the age of 90. I cherished all the conversations that I had with him, and I'm really upset for the family. And JD McNamara is someone that works with us here at Better Collective, and we offer all of our condolences to him and his family. And I know that Jerry hadn't been well the last little while, but had an uptick, and things were starting to look good. And JD and I kept going back and forth because I was looking forward to going out to lunch again with Jerry and boring him with all of my ridiculous hockey questions, and him being the gentleman that he always was, and entertaining and humoring me and coming back with stories that I would remember for the remainder of my life. He was a wonderful man. He was a wonderful scout. He was a wonderful player. He was a wonderful manager. He was a wonderful raconteur. And the hockey world has lost a lot with the passing of Jerry McNamara. Again, condolences to his friends and certainly his family. The Sheet returns tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.